Well, hello everyone. Welcome to session number 17 of the Sitecore User Group Ecuador. We're super excited to have you guys here, and today we have a very special guest. But before that, my name is Richard Leva. I'm the organizer of the Sitecore User Group Ecuador, and today with me is Daniel Pastor, the co-organizer of the Sitecore User Group Ecuador. Daniel, do you want to introduce yourself
Sure,
and Rodrigo?
sure. So yeah, thank you for joining us. I'm Daniel Pastor, the co-organizer of this Sitecore user group and MVP. And today we have a very special guest. We have Rodrigo Peplau. Sorry if I mispronounce your last name. Who has been working for with Sitecore over 10 years since 2010 and who has a very special topic for us today. He's going to be talking about, CDP and, Sitecore personalization. So please, Rodrigo, if you can get started.
Thanks so much. It's a pleasure to be here. Live in Brazil, as you know, and being part of the user group in Ecuador is a big pleasure for me. It's an honor. I think must be doing these interchanges more often. It's also a pleasure to be here to present myself and this topic about CDP. But I put this in these words, CDP and personalize for Sitecore XP fanatics. Is this a strong name? Maybe it is, but we'll see during this presentation my understanding about that and how we can take advantage of our understanding, our knowledge on XP, Sitecore XP, to learn easily on the CDP and personalize. All right, to begin with, I would like to introduce myself for those who don't know me. My name is Rodrigo Peplau, also known in the community as the Sitecore Singer. I work as Director of Technology and Head of Country in Brazil for Alturo. It's been an exciting journey since I jumped in and we're building our location here in Brazil. Also, I need to confess that I love XP. The reason that I love XP is because my career has, since I joined the Sitecore community back in 2010, was always linked to the XP. As you know, 6.3 was out there when I joined. We still had the something called OMS, which is the embryo of the analytics, the experience database. Um, it took me 6 years to get my first MVP, and it happens 2016. Sitecore A2, already called the XP, was out there. But they were using XDB was based in still in Mongo because at those back on those days, SQL Server were not handling the big traffic that an experience database requires, and a non-relational database, MongoDB, has been used in that back in those days. 2017, I got my second MVP. Also, had that lucky to win the hackathon as in the X Connect category when it was released, and that was very exciting. Next year, everything was looking pretty strong and solid, like another MVP, and GSS was released. GSS Tech Preview was announced that day in 9/1. And also, I remember how that sounded to me as just a new way to do things, like just like we transitioned before from Windows web forms to MVC, it will be just passing again to another, through technology presentation. But at the same time, I started to understand the headless concept applied to CMS and think, yes, this can change the way things works, right? And start to have that butterflies in my stomach. next year I won a hackathon again. It's a miracle. You know, I'm still in the game and everything is perfect. Content Hub was really released that year, and the SaaS platform from Sitecore started to become a reality. As you know, back in 2020, content Sitecore 10 was released. Content Hub was gaining momentum, and the next year, 2021, last year, we had a lot of acquisitions from Sitecore. As you know, they acquired multiple companies. CDP Personalize was what Box Ever meant when the Sitecore acquired Box Ever. I will speak later about that. All that was movements from Sitecore to the composable DXP world, which is the target here. The whole market is moving into that direction. Previously, we used to have the XP itself as we know and love. But now the things are changing. It's going to be the couple, right? Not anymore the monolith, but a composable DXP instead is going to appear for us. This is the future, actually, the present of Sitecore. Composable DXP this year is gaining momentum. As you know, recently XM Cloud has been released. This is a totally different topic, actually, but XM Cloud is not. It's basically just the evolution of the XP to the cloud. As you know, XM Cloud is going to be a small version of XP, where basically the CMS part that from the XP that we know and love is going to be used, but in the cloud hosted by Sitecore, it's already there. So everything changes, and honestly, I must confess, I have 12 years of Sitecore, and I feel sometimes outdated, uncomfortable, and even threatened it sometimes. Will I be there next year? I'm not sure if you feel like that. But if you feel that like that, you might be here to understand what's going on and how someone like me, who or maybe you, who learned Sitecore from the past years, how can we adapt in that scenario, right? Um, Daniel, do you feel like that sometimes, Pastor?
Oh yeah, yeah. We have to wait and see what happens. But yeah, I think I'm not the only one, feeling that way.
Yeah, imposter syndrome. What about you, Richard?
Same here.
Yeah,
Challenging times, definitely.
you're getting old. Yeah, sometimes I say hate computers. I have to learn every day. Yes, but learning every day keeps our mind sane and our career sanitized. I think, I'm here to show and give some good news, actually, because I want to show how CDP and Personalize can help us to adapt and continue and expand our careers in the Sitecore ecosystem and what it's going to become tomorrow and is today, actually. How easy it is to learn and use, how it is powerful, how fun it is to work with that, and also how good for you. Before I go through the intrinsics, I would like to speak about the word fanatic and the word fan. Are you a fanatic or just a fan? That's my first question. And to begin with the definition, usually all the definitions of fanatic are also something negative. A person with excessive and single-minded zeal for something, like extremist, sectarian, maniac, militant, you know. But if you take it's out from dictionary. But if you take a look in the fan, which is a derivation, just an abbreviation of fanatic, It's a person who has a strong interest or admiration for a particular person or stuff or thing. A fun fact, and you guys from Ecuador can confirm, I confirmed that with my friends from Argentina. Some Spanish speaking countries use the word fanatico for also as a fan without the negative connotation. Is this the case in Ecuador?
It's very similar, I would say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It doesn't have
Okay.
as much as a bad connotation, but yeah.
Yeah. Last time I presented this in Sucom, I said now it's the pun. And I said, as you know, I'm from Brazil, and where there in Brazil we speak, and everybody said Portuguese. I was, yeah, they know it's not Spanish. Yeah, so all the synonyms for fan are not negative, except for Spanish. Looks like that's why I always say be a fan, not a fanat, unless if you speak Spanish, of course. This is a like a fun, yeah. But to speak about how I'm going to present the knowledge from here, I will actually be always comparing the CDP and Personalize the box ever with Sitecore. So every time you see, I don't want to be nervous. So every time you see this yellow banner, XP, here, it's going to be the XP equivalent because I want you to be taking advantage of your comfort zone. You know, everything you already know, your current knowledge, I always be comparing that with the new stuff that you're learning. So every time you see that yellow banner, I want you to feel calm, comfortable, sit down and, oh, I'm under control here because I know what's going on here. And also speed up the learning process and simplify the understanding. Of course, I'm appealing to simplification here by doing comparisons, and this is going to be just for your beginning of your journey. And I just tell you, don't stop learning because this is going to sometimes be appealing to simplifications, and some inaccuracies can be there for the sake of the learning process. What is Sitecore and CDP and Personalize? So let's start with that. Yellow burner, feel comfortable. It's the SaaS equivalent of the XDB and the XConnect. Basically, the place that you put data from your client, all the interactions between the client and your pages, every time, all the goals, all the analytics from your client and your channels will be there in the XDB, in the XP world, of course. So everything started with Sitecore acquired Boxever, and we got this split it into CDP and Personalize. Boxever is not anymore a thing, it's just in the history. The name is not even in the product anymore. What you will see is CDP and Personalize. And more recently, they are selling the two things, CDP and Personalize, all together as the Smart Hub. I think it is. Yes, Smart Hub content, Smart Hub. I will confirm that later. But CDP Personalize when they work separated, or especially in documentation, people just use CDP for both products. So if you just look for Boxever, you look for old documentations. If you look Sitecore CDP today, you find things for CDP and Personalize altogether. But in the documentation, they have separation as well. All right, what is that? Basically, this is how I take from the official documentation Sitecore is providing to promote CDP and Personalize. We gather data from our customers from multiple channels, either the site or maybe the smartphone or whatever. We process from that data and determine the best next action to offer something personalized for that person. So a personalized content, nothing different from what we do every day with XP, right? You set up personalization, you use the rules for doing that, those things. So not much different. CDP works with the three. It's, as you know, it's a web API first. Everything is in the API first. You also have UI, of course, but everything is in the API first. Whatever you can do in the API, in the UI, you can do even better with the API. And three APIs are there: the stream, the interactive, and the batch. I will speak later. I have a slide for that. But those are the input and output of data. You have in the middle, basically the brain of the thing, which is the CDP. CDP by definition, data platform. So all your user data will be there. And also the omni-channel experiences are something to control how to offer personalized content to your audience in the many channels, different web push, email, social, etc. That's basically the equivalent of the XConnect contact and interactions. Basically that we are having all that and promoting and using that data to give personalized offers and content to our users every day with our XP world, right? And here, from the personalized side, as you can see, I'm just expanding the previous slide with some more options. We're adding in the top the experimentation, which is basically MV testing, A/B testing in XP world, and also the decisioning mechanism, which is also what we call the personalization in XP, right? So as you can see, it's just something new, built for in the SaaS web API first, that does basically the same thing that we do in Sitecore with our personalization and A/B testing capabilities. And again, the experiences being provided here. We have trigger experiences here, which is where, for instance, you track something after a form is being submitted, you're tracking that experience. Or when a button is clicked, you're tracking that experience. Everything, remember, it's analytics, so you can track all the actions that a user does in your website. Okay? You can stop me anytime if it's not clear, or maybe if something goes wrong, I stop working here. Integrating CDP and Personalize with other platforms. Let's do a comparison of that. Again, the endpoints for us will be the Stream API, which is the blue one here. That's the most important one. That is the one that has a lot of REST APIs, and it's going to be there for us to get the basically live events from the website and get those things fed into the CDP, because we need all that data to be centralized in the same place. We have 20 minutes, right? Yeah. Right. And okay, I forgot about the green box there. If we are building a web application, we can use the Boxever JavaScript library, which is a JavaScript library that we can use to implement those event trackings, setting up the CDP itself, triggering personalized experience. Everything will be gone in a web application, will be through the Boxever. And I'll talk later about the JavaScript library. You have the REST APIs in the middle. Those are for non-synchronous calls. A lot of REST APIs here for you to build your application and also to consume through the JavaScript library. But here it's more for when you are building those. We're doing calls from your web application through direct REST API calls and batch APIs. Batch APIs, those are where you are importing whole bunch of information directly to the CDP. Normally, when you're doing like historical data exportation, let's say you are migrating from XP to CDP. Don't throw me stones. I'm just giving an example. You can export that data into CSV and import using the batch APIs. That's the equivalent of the XConnect client API and the universal tracker. You know, you're tracking the data from users and you're doing that in multiple ways. I will give some deep dive now on how we track events and how we compare that with XP later. But in a high level, as you can see, I'm talking about new stuff and I just show a yellow bar. You know, it's the same thing we do in a different way, you know. Okay, so speaking more about the JavaScript library, Boxever, uh, how to enable that? It's just a JavaScript snippet, and that's a big difference from the XP world because basically we have this snippet. You inject that in your website. It doesn't matter where you, if you know, don't matter if it's a CMS, it's a Sitecore, a WordPress, or even a static markup that you host can take advantage of personalization by using this JavaScript snippet. And as we sign up to CDP using this, of course, we have to have our client ID, API, and those things taken. We can take advantage of the JavaScript library that will be there. Okay. To not to follow the same standard, I'm just comparing here. We don't do anything. We don't have to do this in XP, right? In XP, everything is there by default. And here's a big difference. XP can only work if you are hosting it into XP, right? So that's how, again, the coupling story. So XP doesn't have to do anything. We have the visitor identification in the layout loading, and it does that for us. You know, it's a bit of change in the shift here. We can inject this using Google Tag Manager as well, if you want. Okay, so speaking how to track the events, okay? When we are using CDP and implementing that, we have to use the JavaScript library to track the events. So when you build your application, you have to use, all you have to do is to start by getting the Boxever get ID. Boxever here is a namespace that actually an object that comes from the Boxever, the green box there. It gives you not just the get ID, but also a huge number of methods that helps you to work with the interface with the Boxever, with the CDP. In Sitecore, again, we don't need to do much. Session is managed automatically using first-party cookies. When we send events, you know, everything in CDP here, when you're tracking events, you're going to be using a standard, a code, JavaScript code, okay? You're gonna track different types of events, always in the same way. Basically, you specify the channel that you want, you pass the get ID that I just said to tell what is the session that you're managing. Basically, that ID is it's going to be a user ID, a UID, you know, a UID, and it's going to be randomly generated by Boxever, but the same for the session. And the session is managed by the Boxever JavaScript library. So here's, if always pass the same ID, we are going to use that ID. So that's how we manage session. And again, to trigger outcomes, to trigger event campaigns and those things in XP, we do that in a different way. We do that in an XP usually in the experience editor or in content editor. But here you do that with code, telling exactly, for instance, you can track the page load. And that's a common thing to track, okay? I have a slide for that later. But back to definitions. I would like to talk about some glossary here. Uh, Two event types that I want to throw on screen: view and identity. View is basically what we track automatically with the visitor identification when we do that with XP. So the page view, if you track the page view once when the page loads, this is the first thing you do when you plug something in the CDP. You plug and you tell every time the page loads, let's trigger a page view event. But you can also trigger the page view asynchronously if you want, as a page, if you load a page asynchronously, for instance, just a part of it, especially if you're doing a single page application. And the identity is going to be what we do in XP by using content identification. So every time you have a form collecting a user email, for instance, and we in XP, we can use that to identify the contact and have the contact logged in for you. We do that in CDP with the identity event type. And back to the code that I had, I can pass the event type here in this object. Okay. Two other event types that we don't have out of the box in XP, not two, four, is those related to event types. Okay, sorry, order event types. So those are related to that: searching for a product, adding a product, confirming the paying itself. Those events you can track in the CDP using the event types that we have out of the box in CDP. But those, to be doing the same in XP, you have to use custom events, and you will have to maybe plug experience commerce if you are willing to. For more scenarios on integrating CDP and XM, or XP if you want, I suggest you that follow this URL on your screen, because there's a lot of things there about not just scenarios specifying how to do the whole, this is a sequence diagram showing how to track visitor interaction, but also identifying returning visitors and how tracking goals and conversions and many more. Those you can find in this URL. So that's why I'm giving you some time to bookmark this, okay? So the next section, I want to continue appealing to comparisons and respond to your imaginary boss that is screaming to you, where are my stuff? Because this boss is very comfortable with the XP, and he is now nervous, So he starts screaming, where are my contacts now? Okay, so speaking about contacts, in Sitecore, what we call contacts. In CDP, we call guests, okay? Guest is basically a person who interacts with your organization or brand, the equivalent of a contact. As you know, in Sitecore XP, we have anonymous contact and non-contact, which is already identified contact. But in CDP, we have three types of contacts. We have a visitor, which is basically anonymous contact. There is not enough identifying information for knowing that contact. A traveler, which is there is a minimal identifying information, and a customer, which is someone who you have enough information to identify, normally with more than one identifier. And also speaking about how to save data in a contact, as we know from the XP world, we have the contact model, You can have a lot of facets there to save like email address. You can extend and create your own facet. Everything works the same way in CDP, but in a different with different names and different concepts, different class names and those things. You have the guest data model and the guest extensions for the facets. So basically, for basic contact, first name, last name, you have in the data model. Everything else you add to the data extensions. And as you can see here, for us to feel comfortable with the vision, those are the contexts in someone experience profile, and here we have, who's the guy? I think you guys know. Yeah.
It's
Actually,
And
very
here,
familiar.
yeah, very familiar. Yeah. And here's where the contact is being, all those interactions in the timeline and etc. And you can basically have the guy attached to some profile, in this case, it's a digital marketer, and you have other groups that you can define and all that. All that is still there in the CDP. You have the guest list, which is the contact list. That is just a different UI in this case. You have, as you enter in the guest details, you have the same analytics for the user, how many, even more information that we're not used to, like how many times, how many days ago the person interacted with us, how much people are spending in the website and those things, and even some heat maps and very advanced topics here, in heat map and the channels and all that. So it's very powerful from the analytics point of view, and also for the marketers. Like I mentioned, some here is the gas information, the expansion of the properties, everything you want to save for the gas will be in this list. And here some example of interaction timeline, right? The user is working and going through your website. You can have all that vision there. Even something you don't have is a list of the purchases, and everything will be there in the same place. Your boss was impressed, but he's still screaming, like, is this compliant with private regulations? Because he knows that in XP, you have a strong checklist from everything you have to do to make your information, sensitive information, protected. You have a lot of endpoints to support privacy rights and right to be forgotten and all those things. In CDP, what you have is, I would say simpler, but going to accomplish the same thing. We store the PII, the personal identified information, outside of the CDP. You have to have your ID to control in a safer place, or even not even control the PII. Some people will have that in a certain geography. Some people won't even have that, and the policy will be not have any PII. So that will be the way to go to be accomplishing to privacy regulations like GDPR and others. First party segments, using cookies that are first party cookies, not third party cookies, going to be matching the regulations. And also the right to be forgotten. You have the guest delete. It's one of the APIs endpoints that you can call. And he goes, okay, what are my rules? Because he knows that it's so easy to set up. He's very familiar with that. He goes there anytime, set up a personalization. He doesn't need even to bother you, because you set up even some custom conditions if you want. In this case, I have a custom condition here, personal first name is Rodrigo. So in that case, he knows that if the contact name is Rodrigo, for all Rodrigos, you have a special promotion for that person. It's just a, illustrative. And he knows it's so easy. I'm used to that. I click, I like it. I can select it's greater than and all that. In CDP, you have the equivalent of that. It's going to be different here, but built to be readable. That's the special part. So all the rules, and sometimes very complex rules that your boss used to do in the personalization in Sitecore XP, now we are using the decision canvas. Decision models are where you set up two things: your business logic, but also in a way that is readable and reusable for your marketers. Okay, in this example here, we have some inputs and some programmable decision and some decision table. I will speak about that later, about what they do. Here in the bottom, we have the inputs of data. We have some inputs. Those green that you see, those are from the CDP already. The data is there, guest data, order data from the guest, and also some connection here. I'm giving a small tribute from my friend Andre. You don't even know the guy, but I'm giving him a tribute every time I repeat this session. And here you have some decisioning. Here's where you do the business logic of your application. And you can do it in multiple ways. And for programmers, you love it. You have multiple ways to do, I'm speaking about the input data here. Okay, inputting data, you have already from the CDP itself, guest data, order data, and session data. Everything fed from the APIs will be there out of the box for you to use every time you need from the decision canvas. You have external systems, data that you pick and collect from external systems. And I'm talking about your custom systems from anywhere, any REST API that you want to call. And also analytical data, which is basically the same thing, but again, for readability purposes, you have a different icon from analytical model, just to tell your marketers this is for smart thing, like AI, any decisioning systems will be analytical, and any external data system will be just data system. In knowledge source, knowledge source is going to be something is something in the middle here. We're bringing data to inside the CDP, not calling an external system directly, but doing that asynchronously. So you can plug your system, like to import your offers from your external CRM, for instance. You have some offers there you can import into CDP using this asynchronous process, and that's a knowledge source. Okay. From all that to drag to your canvas, okay? And speaking on the decisioning, now speaking about some logic, business logic. The first one, most common one, is going to be the decision model, the decision table. This is for, just two from two, mappings. Like in this case, I'm doing just the same personalization as before. If the guest first name is Rodrigo, then the result is going to be true. If it's not Rodrigo, it's false. Just to use the same, logic as implemented the same logic as before in XP. But you have also programmable decisions. Tables are some very inflexible. Here, programmable. You're using code, JavaScript code, and also a big library of code from the CDP itself that we can use to do a lot of things. Call external systems and expand and do a lot of things from the, I would say, business logic perspective. And also, last but not least, decision templates. Programmable decisions, as by definition, they are programmable, they need a programmer. But you can pack it up by providing some parameters, and you can pack it up programmable decisions into decision templates to be used later for your marketers, you know. So we have 41 minutes. I think I will have to go a little quicker here. How personalization works in the CDP? Your boss is screaming. You know, call every time you speak personalization, you in CDP you have to call it experience. Okay, experience, because your boss knows it's easy. You go there, click in that button, set up the logic, set up the data, and then it shows different. It's magic. In CDP, you have web experience. Web experience is where you are providing, you're giving HTML back to your user. You can have the same as components, and the CDP comes with a number of out of the box components. Here are some examples. Some of them are like very generic, like email capture bar that you can have in the top. You can have pop-ups, you can have bars, like I mentioned, sidebars, and all of them, they are all programmable as well. You can program them, extend them with HTML, and you have like the front end here. As you can see, we're using some special keywords here. Those are to be used later in your JavaScript. And you have the ability to set up different CSS. You can inject your CSS in your component and have your JavaScript as well, and even call it external API. And you have a full stack experience, which you're not giving back HTML, but just a JavaScript. Sorry, in this case, a JSON file. Because in this case, you're providing personalization, but content, but not for a web application. You know, maybe your cell phone or something. So you need your application to do something with a JSON and then display the personalized content, right? Setting up that in a CDP is going to be, I think, very easy for the marketer's perspective. Here you have the variants, and I will speak later about the variations. Variants are a little different. Page targeting. This is something we don't have in XP. Here you can tell this experience will happen to a number of a specific audience only. You know, this is a little different. So like, for instance, if you just use, in this case, I'm using just the domain part. That means the same experience will happen to the whole pages in my domain, whatever the page is. So you know how different it is from XP. In XP, you have to set up that in the component level or in the template level. But here you're targeting the whole website in a single experience. You know, it's very powerful. And also you can target some audience, like people from Brazil or Ecuador. You can have all that audience filtering being done directly in the experience. Here you have the decisioning. I just spoke about the decisioning model. Here you just point to the decisioning model, you know, and tell this experience will happen according to my business logic. I think we're over in time. Is this how many minutes I still have?
Uh, like 15 minutes.
Yep.
So
15
yeah, it's
or okay, good. 15, 7:30 then, 6:30. And the goals, that's something cool as well. When you set up a personalization in XP, you just set up that and it will show the variations for your audience. It's over. Here, you can set up in CDP a goal as well. So what is the goal for your personalization? Expanding the sales or doing different things. You have a number of different possibilities here to later analyze. Okay, let's speak about the differences between, like I mentioned previously, variants and personalization variations. The name is very similar and they look like almost alike, but they are different. See, this is the part that I took longer to understand because of my XP mind. I was always used to have my rule. If my rules match, true or false. If it's match, show my content. If it's not match, go to the next rule. If it's match, show my content. This is not how it works in XP with the variations, with the CDP with the variations. You have variants here to be randomly displayed. Okay, so they will be A, B, C. It's like a mixture of A, B testing and personalization. See how powerful that can be for your marketers. You're doing a personalization and also you're determining what different variations, if you want, of course, you have that ability, what of different variations are working better. So it's like a mixture of A/B test and personalization. You're randomly displaying A and B for a very good reason. Because in the XP world, content comes from the data source items, right? You have your variations, true, okay, show my content. The content itself, we call it data source item. But in the CDP world, actually the content comes from the decision model, the same that I was showing previously. You will be feeding an object and passing the object to the variant to be showing the data. So the content, it's not coming from the data source items, but from the model itself. Your marketers are dealing with the model and sometimes plugging that with external guest data and our internal CDP data. Also, in a CDP world, only a single variant displays all dynamic content. We use the tokens like I was showing previously, and also JavaScript code to take data from external sources and feed the same variant. So the variant is meant to be like a template to show the content, okay? And the data comes from the model, while in the XP, each variant has its own content. So the variant, the variation in this case, has the data source associated, and you show the data. You build all that in the MVC or in the headless world, of course. You render the fields, and that's our familiar way of doing things. Here, you're getting the data from the model and showing by using JavaScript or tokens in the HTML, like I was showing previously. Also, in the variant, in the CDP world, the variant is there to measure the best performance. Basically, to see what of the your alternations are working better. You can have a more discrete one, a blue, a yellow, and try to change see which is the one is working better. And in Sitecore XP, we just use the variations to have a rule attached to that, show a different content, right? Or even hide it. So you see the names are similar, but the usage is quite different, you know? Personalizing content. First time I was dealing with CDP, I start to, again, with my XP mindset, how can I do that, okay? One way to do is, of course, the personalized way. That's the recommended way. You are going to use tokens in your JavaScript, in your markup. In this case, you have title, text, and there are some rules for, you can text and tell this is going to be a date, a string, or an integer, even set up some initial information and tell if it's required or not. And there's a lot of rules that you can apply to the tokens. The tokens is going to be tied to the CDP user interface for your marketers to input the data. That's the personalized way. You take data from and use the same variant, use JavaScript or the tokens to implement the multiple variants in the same. If you want to go like in one experience only, you will be back to the previous one here. you're going to show everything in the same variant, but data are coming from the data model, from the decision model. And the option two, you have like a custom rule in your data model, and you're doing the same variant showing two things using code. Like in my decision model previously example, if it's Rodrigo, show hello variant one. If it's not Rodrigo, show hello variant two. It's less elegant. You're not, you're stuck in the data in the code itself. Multiple experiences. Remember back to the example Rodrigo, not Rodrigo. You can have one experience for Rodrigo's. So your data model will do, if it's Rodrigo, show that. And a second one for everybody else to show a second variant. So it's a different way to set up for the same. I heard from internal sources, and I can tell names yet, there is coming an XP-like uh, variants, like like something very close to what we do in XP to CDP. I'm still to put my eyes on that, but that's something interesting to notice, how they are looking back to the product to learn from that and have something better from the marketers and another option. See, remember I spoke about page targeting, where you can target your experience to some people. Doing that in XP to do the comparison, we have to do that in a page itself in the item, or you do in a template level and it will spread for all templates. Or if you use SXA, you can do in a partial design, and that partial design, if used, the personalization will show, right? But in CDP, like I told, we have the page targeting. You can target the whole site if you want. You can target some page if you want, a section of your website if you want. You can target the same as pay a template, but also you have trigger experience. We don't have that in XP. You have to do that in using custom code. So imagine that you have maybe a button that if the user clicks, there's going to be a pop-up, and you want to trigger that the user clicked in the pop-up. You can do that as well here. So you can show personalization based in a click, which is something that we cannot do in XP without some code. And also the audience filtering, which is very close to some rules as well that we use, like contact past visits and things like that, goals achieved and things like that. You do that with page audience filtering. Okay, now speaking about variants, multivariated tests, A/B tests. Okay, A/B test is what in Personalize we call experiment. So previously experiences, and now experiment. That's confusing, I know. But let's just map again. Experiment for multivariated tests, experience for personalization. And it makes sense, right? A personalization is an experience, right? So I have a content for me, it's experience. I'm experiencing something. But here I'm experimenting something, I'm testing something. Okay, that's the mapping. Test, we do like that. We have your variations. You can even target some exposition, not 100% of your audience if you want. And that's it. Set the objectives and all that. That's what we're used to do, right? In XP, CDP, XP world. When it comes to CDP, you have also the ability to do A/B tests with experiments that we call web experiments. Will be again HTML, and like I said, full stack, which is just content, okay, but doing A/B test, setting up very similar to the past one, content variants, the audience filtering, the decision model, and etc. But now for A/B testing. And that's the funny part. When you look and compare variants, speaking about experiments with variations from XP, we're talking about the same thing. That's the strange part, because they do basically the same thing. When we do experiments in Sitecore XP, we do that we can do in components, we can do in the pages. It's something that's a difference. In CDP is not recommended because actually, for internal experience, I would say learnings, it was showing that the biggest doing A/B test of a page, doing your A/B test of a page, you can do the same. Either you can do the same with personalization by personalizing just one or two components, or you're talking about totally different pages, right? A/B test of a whole page will be like something that will be a lot of variations. And the more variations you have, the more positive falses that you have. Okay, so that's something that we noted it's going to be not advisable to do. Okay, so I just spoke about a lot of content, a lot of concepts, and I just compared all of them with XP. And I feel that I hope that you're feeling comfortable by this time. But I'm also encouraging you to engage, to keep engaging and learning, because if we're talking about different platforms, and it is a different platform, we're still talking about the same community, So the community, the Elson community, is still the same. There are a lot of new people from the CDP now in the same community that we love as well. There's an entire new channel in Sitecore Slack. If you're not there yet, let me know. But I think everybody's there in the Sitecore Slack. But look for the custom data platform channel. We have an entire tag in Stack Exchange as well, and that's it. Engage. Those entire slides that you see has been built with the documentation from Sitecore. I'm happy to tell Sitecore made a good job on documenting all that. So keep on looking at that. Those resources, they are there for our help, and also a lot of learning for free. If you go to learningsitecore.com, especially if you are a partner, you or part of a partner, you can have access to the free training courses, except for the certificates. Everything is going to be learning, or the mentor learning. Everything will be there. Okay, so that's what I got, guys. I would like to open to questions. I'm not following, by the way. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Rodrigo. It was an amazing session for sure. I don't see any questions on the chat just yet, but I do have a question. So you were talking about like something coming soon for XP, and I'm not sure if you can actually answer this. But like, are you talking about some sort of like connector between, I don't know, Horizon and Sitecore CDP Personalize, or were you talking
See,
about something
no,
different?
that's different because that's where I think things get interesting because we're migrating to the, like I said, composable DXP. So it means everything is composable, not anymore a monolith, but pluggable. Okay, and CDP and Personalize from Sitecore can plug to any CMS, not just Sitecore, but also XP and XM, but also with any other tool. That's something we cannot do without the universal tracker and some complexity. So we just plug that with anything. And even Sitecore is the lots of Sitecore clients are looking to migrate from XP to XM with Personalize. Okay, because when you turn off XDB in XP, you lose a lot of features, of course, and those features are going to be supplemented by CDP Personalize. Okay, that's one way to see things. So you're replacing the same CMS that you know with this with the versions, with the languages, with the workflow, with those other things from Sitecore, but with a different XDB. You don't have anymore the experience profile. You have those tools that I showed earlier with those early slides. So you still have the list of contacts. It's not a contact anymore. It's a guest, but you still have the first name, last name, and everything you need to know about the interactions with your guest. So you're just plugging your CMS, and it can be any CMS, even static markup will work, with the CDP, and then tracking all content, all events, everything the client do, even interacting and offering and later personalized content for them. So to give one example, okay, there's a banner in your website, and the banner you want to personalize. How you do that with XP? You go to the component, especially in Horizon, or you can do in content editor if you are brave, and you should do with experience profile or Horizon. You select the component, you set up personalization, you select your variations, and then you set up the rule, and then you set up the content, and the personalization is set up, right? Now you don't do that anymore in experience profile. XM is there. XM Cloud has been just released recently, last week, I think it was. And I'm still to see how the rules are going to be defined, if they will offer something like in the experience editor. I know the experience editor is not there actually in XM Cloud, but the Horizon is there, or something
Mhm.
similar to Horizon is there. It's the same look and feel as Horizon. The you still can do personalization. I heard from the interface, but how is that plugged? I still don't know. But let's say you're not using XM Cloud, you're using WordPress, or you're using Drupal, or you're using I don't know, any other CMS. You're gonna plug and then start using a panel to tracking your guests, to creating new personalization, because you have to create the decision models, like I mentioned, using the user interface that we have in the user interface there. There's a lot to learn about how to do the specifics, creating new variants and all that. Those steps are not meant to be in this presentation, but just the concepts of that you have to know to learn later. But I'm not sure if that answers the question, but yes, it's going to be a way to personalize from to Sitecore as well, and any other platform.
Cool. Yeah, we do have a question on the chat from Mario Guiden. He's saying awesome talk. How hard is it to migrate from XDB to CDP plus Personalize? He's hoping
That's a
it's
good
not just a
question.
CSV.
That's yeah, that's a good question. The CSV will be the mapping, right? The data, the old data, for people who wants really need to companies who really need to have the past data there to do personalization. So that's a very advanced scenario. You can do that in any level, in a lot of levels. And I think the way to go is to migrate. We need to first let's see all do an audit and see all the places in our CDP, our XP that we do personalization and A/B test. Let's map that. Then you're gonna see, okay, this personalization I can do easily with the data model doing XYZ. This one I need to integrate with something else. if you are thinking about your custom rules, you can build custom rules using C sharp, right? In XP. Usually you are going to consult a cookie, or to do your custom rule that you do using C sharp. Or maybe you're going to consult an external API, or maybe you're going to read in a database, or maybe you're going to use, I don't know, any specific decrypting mechanism to do weird things. We have to program the same thing, but now in the CDP, right? So you have to revisit your personalization. What are the rules that I use? What are the conditions that I use? I have to reproduce the same thing now in the CDP. There's no importation, exportation in that sense. Like, it's a re-implementation. But I would suggest that we start with the audit, because then you can list the occurrences that you have and ask your business, from this list, what do you hate, what do you know, what do you really love, what you can't stand without, and then we can prioritize what of those experiences you're gonna migrate first. Okay, being very honest, I'm not sure about you. I'm gonna speak some hard truths now, and if you're not prepared, please uh, take the kids off the room. um, there's if you look back to your past, my past clients, I will personalize now. uh, I would say that only 10% of them are doing very advanced usage of personalization, to be honest. Okay, so an A/B test, to be honest, those two tools, 10% of them are doing, they have marketers who are engaged with the Sitecore, and they know how to do personalization, and they're doing real campaigns using personalization and all those things. So I would say, if you look back to your code base, maybe just 10% of your occurrences will be hard stuff to migrate. All the rest you can do easily using the decision models and the data taken from your contacts, the interactions that you collected from the contact, and the past data. And if you are just using the out of the box data, like contact data, the interactions, the pages that you visited, it's going to be a matter of rebuilding the decision model from the past rules. Otherwise, you have to going to implement some web API. I've heard some people who are having to, let's say, oh, but here I'm consulting a database. This is database is a custom database. How can I bring that to CDP? You don't do that. You actually expose that to a web API. You protect that with some login mechanism, and now you plug that in the CDP using the past decision intakes, the artifacts that I displayed, like data ingestion to the API, right? Using that. So sometimes you have to do that, expose your logic in a certain way to be web API accessible, publicly accessible, right? Hope
Uh,
that answers.
Yep.
And to speak, that's important. That's why I love to be in multicultural places, because Mario Gillen is asking. Awesome talk. I heard. I also learned. Oh, no, sorry. Melvin Rodriguez is saying, I came to learn that Sitecore, and also learn that Fanatico has a negative part. See, for people who only learn, English or any other Anglo-Saxon language, there's no positive, any positive for fanatico. If you are fanatic, it's just bad thing. It's never a good thing. Fanatics kill people. Fanatics, be terrorist people. But fans are passionate. And for us, that's the same for me. Like in Portuguese, fanatico can be also someone who are like a supporter, like someone who likes a team, a soccer team or a band or someone like that, So that's the what I love with multicultural places.
Yeah.
And so when I repeated this in Subcon and I did the fanatico for Spanish, they most people are, oh, they didn't know about that, that there's a positive meaning for fanatico.
Yeah, every Sitecore user group is different, even if it's the same topic. So, no, yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's the great part of this community. And we do have one more question from Ricardo Severo. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's a very good one. So, yeah, he asked if CDP Boxever is not aware of existing content living in Sitecore, how can we achieve content personalization defined in CDP but showing content from the CMS?
Yeah,
A tricky
that's
one.
that's the good part. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's the question that's going to be key for us to switch the gear mentally to understand the CDP. Because the thing is, the content is not there. Exactly. The content inside core gives you the ability because it's there. Your marketers can tag the content and tell, hey, this blog post is about soccer. So you can attribute some level of importance for that. For people who every time that these people are entering maybe 80%, they are there seeing that thing, they know they are soccer player or someone who loves soccer. How to do that with the CDP? That's the key place, the key important place, which is you have to implement that. Now we have to implement that, taking advantage of the grouping. There are some features in CDP where you can aggregate people, create groups of people based on some rules or some custom business logic that you can implement yourself. You can have process if you were talking, for instance, data that comes from your CRM. You can have a process run every night or something, a task schedule to do that operation in the background and implement that exchange of information. That means, you know, that content means importance for that, or the aggregation of content, right? Of groups in content. So basically, to be more specific, if you go back, I have a slide here to speak about the difference on, yeah, here. Actually, yeah, here. So you have the profiling here. No, I have before that. Before that, yeah, here. Okay, your segmentation and etc. So the group here, the best pattern. We have the pattern, right? This is a strong thing that all marketers will use heavily, which is doing the exercise of imagining your groups and telling this guy is a content owner, this guy is a developer, guy is a network architect, and target content to your specific targets, right? This is something we do a grouping in patterns inside core. This grouping you can do internally using rules and your custom business logic, and then use the same to do personalization as well. But you don't do that anymore in the content, in the same place that the content is, right? You do that in your business logic. You have to implement that, and that's the tricky part. The box ever JavaScript library that I spoke previously helps you to track the contacts and match them to groups and all that. But to have your grouping making sense to your content, you have to do that in the content part by yourself. I'll give you an example. You can do, let's say that you're not using XM or XP, but you're using let's say a contentful. Contentful also have ability to have an item, and there's an experience for that. It's not an item, it has a different name, but the marketer will see the interface. We have to do something with that interface that's going to put some weight for those groups in the interface. And when we track the contact, the interaction with the contact, the event itself, we can pass that weight. If it's 5, it's 3, the same points that we give, we can pass that into the CDP as well, and then process that. So basically, you have to do that by yourself. That's what I'm here to tell. I'm a fanatic, an XP fanatic, and that I love Sitecore XP, but and also that XP does have a lot of advantages over CDP. And here's one of the things that XP is doing best, which is making sense of the content with the tagging the content, right? You can do that very easily. Marketers can do that very easily in XP, because CDP is something meant to be generic, to be usable even with markup, static markup, like I mentioned, agnostic of CMS. You have to plug that part. So that's the hardest part.
Awesome.
Ricardo,
Yeah, a very, very good question. So I don't think we have
yeah,
any more questions. So yeah, thank you, Rodrigo. I think, well, it was a great intro into the new Sitecore CDP world for, I think, people like us that might be more familiar with XP and what we might expect going over this transition. And also, I believe Rodrigo has a great glossary of terms in CDP and how they might translate into XP terms in his personal
yeah,
blog. So
true.
yeah, please check it out. It's a good one.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Rodrigo, thank you very much. Definitely, I think this was one of the most popular sessions we've had so far.
Yeah.
Thank you.
At one
Yeah,
point we had
my
like 30,
pleasure.
30 users watching. So thank you very much. It's been a pleasure having you here, and of course, you're
Wow,
always
that's
welcome.
cool.
And yeah, I hope you
Thanks so
sing this
much.
year as well during symposium.
We want some people want to announce that to take advantage of the opportunity and tell. We also have a site course group in Brazil. We need speakers. Any of you that are heading this session, Danielle and Richard, even people who are attending, anyone who has something to and you want a space to present, Sitecore User Group Brazil, we're very friendly and no pressure kind of place for you to channelize your knowledge. We're more than happy to have your session with us. Let me know. I am everywhere, like I mentioned back to that slide in the end. I am back. I am in Slack. You can call me in Sitecore Singer in Twitter. In the Sitecore Slack, I'm R Peplau, 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 and that's it. So just let's stay in contact. I'm
Yep,
more than happy to do more collaboration between us. That's how we build this community, right? And
exactly.
see you in the
Yeah.
symposium, or
See you in
maybe
symposium,
See you
Rodrigo.
there for
before
sure.
that.
Thank thank you very much.
Welcome.
All right.
Bye. Thanks so much as
Bye,
well.
guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye. And just one very last thing before I forget. Finally, I think thanks to our fellow MVP, Roberto Armas, I think we actually have a voucher for 25% off this year's Cycle Symposium, so you can have a drink with us, with Rodrigo and Richard. So if you are interested, please send us a message to our Twitter account at Psycore SUGEC, and yeah, we'll probably raffle between the messages this voucher. So yeah, please follow us on social media and send us a message.
Awesome.
Way to go, Sug Ecuador.
Thank you, everyone.
XPC.
Thank you,
Bye bye.
Rodrigo.
Bye,
Have
guys.
a good one. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye. Thanks so much.